It began in a cold hospital corridor. The scent of antiseptic and the hush of late-night exhaustion clung to the air. My mum shifted restlessly on a hard plastic bench, her arms crossed, eyes narrowed with worry. The walls buzzed softly with fluorescent light. Outside, Sydney's rain whispered across the glass. I stood with my back against the wall, fingers wrapped around my phone, papers clutched tight against my chest. My brother Eddie leaned by the intersection, hood up, repeatedly tapping his boot on the tile. Aunt Joan, always direct, stood blocking my path with a tight-jawed scowl. "So you're still going to that uni, then? Still playing at being an inventor?" She spat out, arms akimbo, voice echoing down the corridor. I looked past her at my father's room. A dull monitor beeped steadily beyond the closed door, one more fading sound in a place designed to deny death, though everyone in that waiting room was running from it. I'd come looking for comfort, for a gentle hand, or even just neutrality, but my dream hung around my neck like a joke t-shirt. I could feel the weight of their scorn. "I'm building things," I said quietly. "We're going to help people walk again. I showed you last month." "Building things?" Aunt Joan's laughter was sharp and brittle. "And what does that pay, Ari? You think these people," she gestured at the pale blue walls, "will queue up to buy your little toy robots? That fancy university's feeding you fairy tales. Grow up, your father needs you, we all need you, not your fairy stories." She cut me with every word, her disgust fully on display. Eddie snorted and muttered, "She's right, bro. Not like you're gonna get rich putting screws into toy cars." Mum shot him a look before rubbing her forehead. "Eddie," she sighed, but when she looked at me all I saw was fatigue. "Enough," I whispered, shaking just a little. "I just wanted to visit, to help Dad." Aunt Joan wouldn't back down. "Tell the uni you're done, get a real job. Your father didn't raise dreamers. We're not that sort, family first, pride after." The corridor squeezed around me. I wanted to shout, to tear down her certainty, but I couldn't. I was 19, a half-grown adult, my dream already labeled delusion. The hurt was heavy, sharp, but I refused to lower my eyes. Instead, I slipped into Dad's room where his pale hands wrestled with hospital sheets and pressed my knuckles against my lips, told myself to remember, hold on. We lost Dad 3 days later. The funeral was small, the eulogies full of what he'd sacrificed for us. Nobody mentioned that maybe he would have wanted us to do something just for ourselves. Nobody asked if I was okay. After that, I slipped out. I stopped coming to every dinner. Work at uni filled every gap I could carve out. At the University of Sydney, the mechanical engineering labs buzzed with possibility. I found kin in weirdos, quiet hackers, artists of code, girls who soldered wires like artists plucking strings. We failed often. There were nights I crawled home, hands smelling of flux, brain rattled by dead ends, but at least failure here felt honest. It wasn't mockery, just a lesson. But at home, silence grew. Eddie lost himself in temp jobs, then in bottle shops and long nights. Mum worked late at the community centre, her calls short and practical. I became a voice on a voicemail. It hurt. Every breakthrough, when the exoskeleton prototype first lifted a foot, when our sensors finally responded to muscle signals, all I wanted was someone to see, someone to believe. But when I brought home a video clip, the living room emptied. 5 years passed, the ridicule faded, replaced by absence. Aunt Joan moved up to the Central Coast. Mum only called on birthdays. I heard about Eddie's new girlfriend through someone at the shops, yet my small team became my family. My supervisor, Dr. Richards, became fiercely protective. "Ari, this is good," he'd say, gesturing to robotic frames twitching to life. "All you need is one break." It came slow, then all at once. We were in the university's innovation hub when it happened. A representative from a big Sydney biomedical company, Irene Singh, visited our little cluttered corner. I almost didn't go into the meeting. The past had taught me to expect disappointment. But she sat and watched as our Mark V prototype helped a volunteer, paralyzed from the waist down, rise and step forward. Each motion awkward at first, then smooth, delicate, trembling hope stitched into metal and wires. Irene's eyes brightened. "We'll invest." Her tone left no room for doubt. "We'll get you working pilots at clinics tomorrow if we can. But we want you on the team, Ari. You laid." It was the first time someone outside myself recognized what I had nursed through years of doubt. The next months were a storm. My world warped into long meetings, government grant paperwork, and more sleepless nights than I remembered from university. There were failures, some embarrassing, like prototypes that seized up or software that glitched, with testers left hanging in noisy silence, but the vision persisted. Our devices were clunky, the kind only a mother or desperate clinician could love, but they worked. Each success was an island in the sea of my old family loneliness. Our launch day arrived on a cold spring morning at Prince of Wales Hospital. The exoskeleton frame, now called the ARI robotic exoskeleton, stood polished and silent in the center of a busy rehab ward. I had begged Mum to come. She brushed me off, voice tight. "I can't get away from the center, Ari. Good luck, though." I nodded and did not argue. Reporters crowded around a man named Howard, our first real-world test beyond the lab, his legs wasted after a spinal injury. He beamed through nervous sweat as I strapped him in alongside an attending physio. "You ready, mate?" I whispered. He nodded. "Let's give it a go." The ward fell silent, monitor lights blinked. I initiated the program. Howard took a step, shaky, uncertain, but then another. His wife cried beside the physio. He finished his plan sequence trembling but upright, grinning. Cameras flashed. My hands shook, but it wasn't with doubt anymore. News ran that night with my awkward face and awkward stammer. Engineers at University of Sydney restore hope to the paralyzed. The next morning my phone buzzed. It was Eddie. He didn't say hello. He sounded soft, lost. "Mum's seen it, bro, the TV. She called me before work. She was crying." My throat closed up. "You all right?" He snorted. "She wants to see it. She's proud of you, Ari. Even Aunt Joan called." I didn't know what to say. I stared at the ceiling, heartbeat pounding. Then softly, "I'm still your brother. I didn't leave. Just needed to prove it to someone, I guess." He coughed. "Can you come over tonight?" I went, walking the old familiar footpath to Mum's little red brick duplex in Ashfield, hands jammed into my coat pockets. The garden was neglected, filled with weeds and the decaying lemon tree Dad planted years ago. I opened the squeaky gate and paused where rainwater pooled on the path. Inside, the house was filled with nervous tension. Mum had laid out mismatched tea mugs and a batch of burnt scones. Eddie lounged at the table, nervously scrolling his phone. Aunt Joan sat by the window, older now, less sharp-edged. The TV murmured in the background, replaying the clinic footage. There was me and Howard stepping across the screen. Nobody spoke at first, then Mum stood, hands fussing at her apron. "I saw you," she whispered. "I saw what you did. They say it's going to change everything for those people." I met her eyes, searching for mockery, for the old caution. Instead I saw awe. Aunt Joan cleared her throat. "I never thought that. I never believed you'd actually do it." She sounded humbled, even defeated. "I guess I was wrong." I sat. The kitchen was the same as ever, full of the steam of overboiled tea. The lemon cake burned on the edges, its scent mingling with memory. I started, voice trembling. Needed to prove it to myself, but to you too. When I was in the hospital with Dad, I needed someone to tell me I was worth believing in. Eddie shifted uneasily, his voice was rough. "We messed up, man, sorry. I always thought to know that nobody from here does shit like that." He gave a helpless shrug. "I was jealous, still am, sorry." Mum wrapped her arms around me, squeezing hard like when I was a child after a nightmare. She didn't say sorry, just murmured, "I'm proud of you. Your dad would be proud too." I should have said it sooner. I should have. "It's all right," my voice cracked. "I'm here now." That evening I brought them all, the whole family, into the hospital for a live demonstration. The same corridor, but now lined with clinical staff, blinking cameras, curious volunteers. As Howard and another volunteer readied themselves, Aunt Joan gripped her handbag in knuckles white as bone. Eddie stood behind her, a protective shadow. I fitted the ARX back onto Howard, narrating each step. Listened to Mum's sharp intake of breath at the careful whir of motors. The exoskeleton hissed and hummed, a metal prayer to possibility. Howard leaned forward, poised. "You ready?" I asked. He grinned. "Always." He took a step. It was nothing like those first clumsy lunges in the lab. The system hummed in harmony with his body, supporting and guiding. The corridor filled with stunned applause. Mum clapped her hands and wept openly. Aunt Joan cried, "Oh my God," over and over, unable to look away from the gentle miracle before her. As the exo finished its slow walk, I looked up at my family. Somehow I was the same person who'd stood in this corridor years ago, mocked and belittled, but the weight had changed. Their eyes shone, fixed on me, not with skepticism, but with pride and disbelief washed away by reality. That night Sydney's rain eased. I walked home with Mum, arm in arm through lamplight and the scent of wet earth. She kept glancing at me, a smile she couldn't hide lighting her face. At the corner, under the jacarandas, she stopped. I still see you as a little boy in overalls pulling apart the old radio. I wish now that I'd seen the man you'd become sooner. I wish I'd believed you could. I squeezed her hand. I always wanted you to, Mum. But I had to believe for myself first. We stood quietly watching the city lights bleed into the night. From that day, things changed at home. I was invited back, not just tolerated but welcomed. At the markets, people started nodding. Hey, Ari, saw you on the news. Kids from my old school wrote, asking for advice. Eddie brought his girlfriend to our demos. Mum bragged about me to everyone who'd listen. It wasn't vindication that healed the old wounds, but inclusion, being able to give back to show them hope forged in struggle, remade the past into something almost soft. Still, sometimes I walk the hospital corridor in my dreams. I pass the echo of Aunt Joan's old scorn, hear the tired shuffle of Mum's heels, the silent encouragement I once searched for, but now behind it I hear applause and my own voice steady and full. I remember hurt, but it doesn't rule me. I remember dignity and I keep it close. And when I see a kid hunched over a broken radio at a local fair, I sit down beside them, telling them quietly, don't let anyone laugh you off your path. One day you might build something none of them can imagine.